Greetings, dear friends, from the monks of Mount Angel. Last week I spoke with you about meditating on the hidden years of Jesus' life. That's what the Catholic tradition calls those years that the scriptures report nothing about. And we did that as a sort of exercise to, what I said, cleanse the mind of worry and rancor, so that we could face the challenges that we're facing in the pandemic and in the turmoil in our country. I want to just drill down into that same thought about Jesus and the hidden years, because I find it such a rich exercise in helping us to understand the marvel of the humanity of Jesus, and that God's design for our salvation should be that God takes a human nature to himself and is God with us in a human nature. This is extraordinary. It's marvelous. And just to ponder this can set us at peace. So let's work a little bit more on wondering what these hidden years of Jesus might have been about. I said last time, I'll say it again, that we can use our imagination for this. Not the imagination run wild so that we create a little Jesus who's in our image and likeness. An imagination that is guided by the scriptures and indeed by the theological synthesis of the undivided church, by theology, really. But let's go back to the scene of the finding of Jesus in the temple at the age of 12, because there's actually a lot of clues in there from which we can imagine further the life of Jesus. We had that wonderful line which he says to his mother in response to her reproach. Why did you worry us like this? And he said, why did you look for me? Did you not know that I had to be about the things of my Father? I just love that line because it shows us so much about the boy Jesus, that already at that age he was absorbed in the things of his Father. And what were the things of the Father? Our salvation. He sent his Son for our salvation. And this is an awareness that Jesus is growing up into. And so we can imagine that already before that day, he was about the things of his Father, and in the years that followed, he was absorbed with this sense of his Father's presence and a mission that he had from the Father. So that's a really big clue, if you will. But let's take another clue from that scene of finding Jesus in the temple. We read that when Mary and Joseph found him, he was found in the midst of the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Let's wonder about that. If he was there at that age, discussing with older men the scriptures, we can presume, among other things that would mean is that Jesus had at some point had to learn to read. It's a wonderful thought. He had to learn his Alephs, Beths, and Gimels. That's how you say ABC in Hebrew. But just letter by letter, the boy learned to read. Or before that, he learned to talk. He had to find out what the word for dog, cat, bird, sheep. Somebody said to him, that's a dejasha. That's the Aramaic word for chicken. I think somebody told me that once. Anyway, what's happening here? This is extraordinary. The eternal Word that was with God from the beginning, the eternal Word becomes flesh and little by little learns to speak human words. Little by little learns to read the scriptures. This is the way in which Jesus is God with us. Humble, not flashy, but definitely God with us. It says there that the boy Jesus was asking the teachers questions. I wonder what kind of questions they were. Well, maybe he was already saying, don't the scriptures say that the Messiah has to suffer so to enter into glory? Was he onto that already at that age? Was he astounding them as he would later astound his disciples with thoughts like that, which in fact are deeply rooted in the scriptures? Who knows? In that same text, at the end of it all, we read, after this, Jesus goes back to Nazareth with Joseph and Mary and was obedient to them. Just to say he lived the life of a boy with his parents. 12 years old, 14 years old, 16 years old, 18 years old. He's growing up. He has to watch his body change, grow into the body of a man. 20 years old, he sort of settles into what he's going to look like. And he would have worked that out, I don't know, in a bronze mirror or in the reflection of his face in the lake. And he goes, that's what I look like. All the while, like other people, he would have been in relationships with other people. Surely an attractive personality. He didn't just start to be attractive when he comes on the scene and begins his mission in earnest. So there were all these relationships that he had throughout his lifetime that we don't know anything about. But in all of those relationships, he was God with us. And he was working at our salvation through it all. You know, when Jesus rises from the dead after completing his work on the cross, and when the Father fills his body with evident and divine glory, the Jesus who rises from the dead just isn't an individual who happened to have been dead and rises again. His whole life rises with him. And so all those relationships with everybody that he knew throughout his life, and there's some way in which the power of the resurrection washes back over them and brings them into what his death and resurrection accomplished. See, and we can go on like this, and I'll probably do it next week too if I'm still alive and making these videos. I just want to talk about Jesus in this way to help you know him in his humanity, because I said Jesus risen from the dead takes all these people he lived with and knew and brings them into his risen life. But he does the same with us. This is what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. To be a disciple of Jesus means to have him living with us in his quiet, ordinary way, but being God with us in that way. So I want to offer you again that thought for us to confront our days and the challenges of our days, to be aware that Jesus as risen Lord is quietly with us, being risen Lord in his humanity, in our humanity. I offered the suggestion of a prayer last week, and I'll say it again because I said, pray this way to Jesus. Jesus, I love you. Let me know you more and more. That let me know you more and more. That is, Jesus, I just want to understand how you're here with me now. How you're here with us now. I want to know what it was like for you then when you were 24 years old and 27 years old, and who you met, and yeah, you're still doing that now everywhere in the world. Jesus, I love you. Let me know you more and more.